Hi, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Backcast, where I, Adam Upper, talk with our local distributor Donkey Sauce, Braydon Kenny, and we talk about Batman, the animated series. And this week's episode is P.O.V. But unfortunately, this doesn't involve our favorite porn star. How are you doing today, Braydon?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Uh, Better after seeing what we saw this past weekend. So we're probably dating this episode. We do it a bit early, but we both separately saw Madam Web. I would just
Oh, we
leave it at
saw
that.
it.
And it's definitely a movie. But thankfully, this episode was actually a good episode, so it cleansed our palate a little bit on our superhero stuff. Did you remember watching this episode in your initial watch through? This episode that sticks
I
out.
don't recall if I saw this on its first airing, but when I saw it for the first time, I was actually really impressed with the layout of the narrative.
It definitely pulled off like the different perspectives like very well, yeah, I think. And yeah, and for me, I had the same thing. I don't probably didn't watch it like very first like premiere episode, but it's definitely a episode that was in repeat a lot. So I remember this is one of the episodes that I remember watching like over and over again when it was on the weekends or whatever. So, and with that, yeah, as I said, this is an episode titled POV. It initially airing was September 18th, so we're back in September now, September 18th, 1992. But I didn't check what day of the week that is. Do you remember what you're doing September 18th, 1992?
I'm gonna say I was probably speaking my first word. I was
Ooh.
two at the time, so my first word was, and this is a true story. Where to go? And it's a family joke now. I just randomly would just yell, "Where to go? Where to go?" And they'd be like, "What the heck is he talking about?"
Those crazy kids. As I said, I keep on saying I was probably just doing my like 1992, so it's like grade eight, yeah. So doing whatever grade eights do when they're like 11, 12 years old. I gotta stop asking this question because I never remember what I was doing back then. I barely remember what I was doing last week, let alone fucking like 30 years ago. So yeah, so this is the seventh episode to be produced, but yeah, the 13th episode aired. So we're definitely closer to the beginning of the series than the last like couple episodes because they were like the last episode was like it was like in the 30s or something. Which I like that they had this one earlier because it gives a bit more perspective on like Harvey Bullock and Renee Montoya because I think we follow deal with them a lot throughout the series. So it gives a little bit more backstory to the both of them because it starts off with Renee Montoya and Wilkes. I love the fact that like there's the two cops and they don't even give like the third guy a first name. It's just Officer Wilkes or Rookie.
Yeah.
Hey, Rookie. Yeah, you don't even deserve you're just there to give credence to Renee's story just so that just so that Harvey's the senior detective or whatever, so they wouldn't automatically believe him in his like somewhat bullshit story once we get into that. So yeah, it's just Renee Montoya and Ricky Cop Wilkes responding like we're going to like it was like a stakeout or something like that they were supposed to go in with Bullock, right? Like it was a stakeout or like it was just a sting. I can't
Yeah, I
remember what
think
they said.
they're going for a stakeout to kind of see like what this like organized crime unit was up to, and they're supposed to meet Bullock at the scene
Yeah,
before they moved in, and I guess something happened because when they get there, the entire building's on fire, and
yeah,
there's
yeah.
Bullock just like leaning in the
Just
alley like coughing his lungs out.
yeah, just friggin' kind of waking up from looking like he got conked in the head or something, and on the way there, yeah, it looks like they're driving like a bat out of hell, and the cop was like, yeah, and Renee was like, don't worry, we're gonna be there on time. So, which always made me think like, if she knows they're gonna make it there on time, why is she rushing so fast?
Yeah, I
Was she?
wrote here like Montea's auditioning for the Fast and the Furious. She's looking like Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, she wants to take over for the spot that Jason Momoa is not going to be there for anymore. But yeah, so they get there, the factory's already on fire, and Bullock's just kind of groggy. They love they don't even they just say like they say like two words to them, like Bullock and maybe are you okay? And then they like just rush it and then just don't even find out if he is actually okay or what. Let them kind of come to a bit more to find out what happened. They're like, oh, let's run into the burning building and not figure out what the hell's going on because I think you just said there's more or something like that or inside. I think.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, when it comes to Bullock, I think we figured out this is a professional relationship at best. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, they're trying to figure out kind of what's going on, and they have Bullock like looking around after he's kind of come to and seeing Batman on the roof. Like first of all, amazing animation in this opening scene. Like I love that, I don't know how do you really describe it, but that glowing kind of wash over the characters' designs that kind of gives that feeling of like the firelight just really brings that ambiance of heat to like the feeling of the scene.
yeah. Like the animated lighting was really well done. And then him looking up into the silhouette of Batman on top of the building, like in through the smoke and stuff. And I think that's the real first thing Bullock really says. He's like Batman, and then this kind of that passes out again. With that, kind of doesn't go along with his story later on because he seems surprised initially to see him, and then later on, then it kind of cuts to looks like they're in a some sort of disciplinary hearing or something like that, and there's some probably a DA or like internal affairs or whatever their version of HR is, just kind of screaming at them, just being like, "You guys screwed up like months of work and like I think he said millions of dollars or just lots of money on
Yeah,
this
2 million
bust."
in cash.
Yeah, the money that was stolen. Okay, yeah, so they got months of work trying to bust the unsaid bad guy because they didn't even say it wasn't one of the big crime families. You just said it was bad guys, or
Yeah, we never get a name for the bad guy at the end,
not
which
really.
I thought was a bit of a missed opportunity, but I guess to the service of the story, it's not entirely relevant. But yeah, this guy, Lieutenant Hackle, apparently he's like internal affairs. He's berating them, and Gordon's like trying to give the guys a chance to, like, speak their side of the story, and basically saying like, you guys have ruined this entire operation. And Bullock's defense is pretty much opening a candy bar up in the middle of this disciplinary hearing, only to have it smacked away from him. It's like, read the freaking room, Harvey. Dude's
Yeah.
sake.
You're not. We're not in the bay. We're not in the break room, just going over what happened. We're on record here.
Yeah. But yeah, he's
Yeah,
wanting to know who's responsible for this whole like, like kiboshed operation. And so one by one, these cops are kind of telling their story. So this is, I guess, the thing that sets this episode apart from the usual episodes of like the status quo of the show, is you have what they call in cinema the Rashomon effect, where you have multiple different perspectives that are all pieces that are fitting together one story, which because this is a very GCPD kind of focused episode is really a strength to like what police officers and cops have to do is they have to fit the pieces of a puzzle all together to kind of figure out what the crime scene involved and how things played out, which I think really works. Like if you guys have seen movies like Usual Suspects, Vantage Point, stuff like that. It all kind
I
of
forgot
gets
about
to,
Vantage Point.
yeah, it all kind of brings everything kind of into one bigger picture so that when you really look at how life works out in a real case scenario, what I see is going to be different from what Adam sees if we're looking at the same thing. Like everybody's got different perspectives, everybody's got different biases, Harvey Bullock especially, and you're gonna have a whole bunch of different looks at how scene played out into like a case scenario, like a warehouse going up or an operation in a police proceeding, kind of going pear shaped. So I think it really is an interesting choice of a narrative style for this episode, and I think that it plays out very well. It's straightforward, so that the audience is able to keep up with it, and it lets you kind of, it's a very thinking piece kind of episode.
and Bullock firmly puts the blame on Batman because because it kind of looks like Bullock just kind of went in early, not waiting for Renee and rookie no name. That goes in and kind of tries to sneak up on them, kicks a can, lets them know they're there, and then he friggin' the three guys come up to him, and the main bad guy, I guess, there goes to throw a punch, and like Bullock immediately runs away. Like you think cops should have at least like a basic knowledge of like self defense and like very basic at least I would think.
Yeah, he
If
runs away, but the first thing he does is like he I think he trips and drops his gun.
oh yeah,
And
that too, yeah.
I'll remind you, this cop, the mob guy, basically steps on his hand before he can get the gun, or steps on the gun or something. And Bullock has the cojones to like point his finger and say, "Freeze, maggots, unarmed," to these three thugs. It's like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, I was going to resist arrest and attack you, detective, but after you insulted me, I've taken a good long look in the mirror and wondered what's become of my life. So, you know what? I'm turning myself in.
Then he runs away, and during that fight, like electrical box gets hit or something like that, and that's what ultimately could catches the place on fire. But the sparks go onto like a wooden crate, and it immediately catches on fire. But I'm fairly certain it would take more than that to catch like a wooden crate on fire than like a couple of sparks, I would think, unless it's already like doused in something. But even then, I don't
Yeah, maybe
think.
these guys are running the arson racket of Gotham and like they're just smuggling in kerosene in this warehouse.
Or
But
maybe it
yeah,
was that,
it goes
maybe
up
it's that
pretty fast.
maybe it was that same like fireworks factory from Madame Web, and it just went up like extremely fast for no reason.
Don't talk about Madam Web, no. Yeah, I
Uh,
love that scene where Batman's busting in to, of course, save Harvey, and he grabs him. Scene of like Kim Basinger in Batman when he like saves her, and like first thing he says before he fires up the grappling hook is, "How much do you weigh?" Actually, he says that to Bullock. He's just like, "Fight me."
or he just looks up and he's like, ah, fuck, he just like fires up with like two more. Puts the two like one each side of his bat belt and like the third one on his arm just to carry on up. He's like, you gotta ease up those donuts, man. I know you're a
Yeah.
cop and all, but still. Yeah, then during Bullock's story, he says he's the one that saved Batman after the fire because like the fire crashed in on him.
Yeah,
Uh,
you got a picture
So
what's
yeah,
going on in Gordon's face, like hearing all this. He's just like, "Oh my gosh, Harvey!" Like,
yes,
for Pete's
yeah,
sake.
it's obvious that like it shows like the Bullock's embellishing a little bit of what's going on because like I said, yeah, he went in early saying he was following Batman, but yeah, it's at the beginning when Bullock went in not quote unquote following Batman, that Batman did the Spider-Man pose outside. The shadow on the door was like the upside down Batman.
I did. You know what? Now it's hitting me. Yeah, yeah, I realize
Yeah,
that
so I
now.
was like, so I was like, that's Spider-Man's man. Yeah, you just have like the grappling hook and you hold it with your hand and get lower yourself down. You did this. It definitely did the Spider-Man pose, unless like you're waiting for to kiss Renee or something like that. But I don't think there's anything ever goes along with her. Goes along with her. So yeah,
Yeah,
then then we switch to like Wilkes' story, like rookie Wilkes that doesn't get the first name.
yeah.
So then
I was
yeah,
at first thinking when I was hearing Wilkes, because this is a new character. So like I've
yeah.
seen enough of these, kind of mystery, like what actually happened, kind of stories. I thought Wilkes was going to be, kind of the red herring, that he was going to
Uh,
be the guy, or not the red herring. I thought he was going to be the guy who was the mastermind all along. Like they had an inside guy in the cops who was, like the guy who was, telling the the mob what was going on so that they knew how to be prepared. But it wasn't actually the case. He's just a new character. I guess they needed a third perspective to back
yeah,
up like Montoya's story.
yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a fire and like the bad guys had gotten away or something like that, and then Bullock was trying to blame Batman, then yeah, maybe. But if I definitely didn't think he was like a red herring for that because of the politics of love. it being a fire instead of them getting away. So yeah, so
Mhm.
like the internal affairs guy was sounds skeptical of Bullock's story, which he should be because it showed that he was kind of somewhat
It's Bullock.
embellishing at least. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we all at this point we all know Bullock. So yeah, as a whole, he's a decent cop, but yeah, but he'll definitely like try and make himself sound better if he fucked up the on occasion.
It's very real that a guy like Bullock, because we've all met people like this in real life, that
Yeah,
when something goes wrong, they just blame somebody else for why it went wrong. Like
yeah,
everyone has
especially
met someone like that at some point in
yeah,
their life.
especially in it be if it was their fault specifically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I think Wilkes insisted that yeah, that Montoya and him weren't late, which they chose at the beginning when they actually got there because that's how the episode started. Yeah, that Bullock had already gone in,
Hmm. And
but then
one of
it
the things
happened.
I liked about Wilkes' perspective
Yeah.
is that scene of him kind of watching Batman take down the thug. Did
Oh
you?
yeah, yeah. It shows up there. Yeah, the guys are getting away, and he says because as he said in earlier podcast, this is definitely not like year one Batman, but probably like year two or three. So not if you're a rookie cop, you probably have heard people. You probably heard this, see the news and like the cops saying like, "Oh yeah, fucking Batman," or yeah, I like Batman. But he is like, yeah, I've heard of him before, but this is the first time I actually saw him. So Batman is doing his usual takedowns of people. Like, yeah, the car was going away, so he threw his the handful of the little tacks or whatever you want to call them to deflate the tires in the car, and so go out and he just like throw his hand and sparks threw out of his hands, which was just the light reflecting off the tacks. And then then he pointed his hand and like a lightning rod or a laser shot out of his hand, but it was just like a grappling hook, and he put electricity on it, so it actually lit up the line. And what was the third thing? Yeah, there was something else too. Like it was like the
Oh,
tax something, and he said that there was like a
he said something else, but like, yeah, the vibe I was getting from it is like you're really getting the perspective of what it's like to be a witness of watching Batman. Because that's the thing when you're like we've all had this impression that Batman's like this awesome kind of character. But most of the time when we're like going into a Batman story, we're going into it from Batman's perspective.
yeah,
Whereas here, you're seeing it from the perspective of somebody else, which really kind of leaves you with that impression because if I'm going into a story and I'm talking and I'm making it look like I'm, like this awesome badass character, well, of course I'm going to think that because I'm the one I can narrate my own, telling of the story. Versus here, it's like you're seeing what this person's doing from afar and like you're like who is this person. It gives Batman this kind of like mysterious urban legend kind of supernatural vibe where yeah he's like he shot like lights out of his hand or like he managed to like shoot like sparks out of his fingers and stuff like that. Obviously that's not what is actually going on, but to this guy it's his perspective and like it's as credible as you're going to get. It's not like an
yeah,
unreliable narrator, but it's him retelling the story exactly as he sees it with the understanding of the evidence of his own eyes.
yeah, because you're probably hearing like stories of him like, oh yeah, he can take out like 10 guys at once, and he's like superhuman, he can fly and all this stuff or whatever. And you're like, yeah, bullshit. That's that. This shit's not serious. And then you see that, and he's like, holy shit, he is superhuman. He's fucking, he is the Batman because he's like, throwing sparks out of his hand and like shooting lasers and stuff or electricity. And and he probably has
Batman's
a
the
cop.
Chuck Norris of the DCAU.
Hey, as a cop, you're like, this is not what I signed up for. Because I think, yeah, you probably already started trying to start his career as a cop before like Batman was like on the scene. So he's like, fuck, man, if I known this was going on before I started becoming a cop, I would have fucking stayed at home and become like a postman or something instead.
It kind of reminds me of that scene in Braveheart, where like Mel Gibson's William Wallace like rides up in the middle of that battle, and he's like, "I am William Wallace," and this is after he started, like rebelling against the English, and they're like, "You're
Yeah.
not William Wallace." He's like, "William Wallace is like this and like that." He's like, "Oh yeah, I've heard about William Wallace. Yeah, he shoots balls of lightning from his eyes and bolts of lightning from his arse."
think I only saw that movie once, like when it hit video. Yeah, so I don't really remember it. The only thing I really remember is obviously the end scene where they kill him or whatever. Yeah, it was pretty much the only thing I really see.
Freedom!
Yeah. And then obviously, obviously I didn't catch it when it was out because I was probably like a teenager. But like like the main battle scene where like it keeps on cutting to him, he has like a sword and then an axe and then a sword again or whatever it is. It's like, if you ever see like the big continuity errors in big movies, that's always like near that scene is always like near the top of the list. So I think I want to watch it again just to see if I actually catch it, like actually watch it instead. Yeah, so after Wilkes says those three things that he does, that he takes down the guys, like the bad guys, and then we switch to Montoya's story, and then
Well, before we get to Montoya's
uh,
story,
yeah,
one thing that is kind of a key thing in the plot is as Batman's kind of like on top of this guy, he's hearing him whisper, like he's basically asking for like
oh, yeah.
information, and all he says is the word doc.
So like so Wilkes says like he try to takes down the guy, and he said something to him, and he's like, yeah. Then the DA guy's like, what do you say? He's like, oh, I'm not sure, but you look super scared, and yeah, it said what sounded like Doc. He's like, Doc, like what kind of Doc? Like, what is it? What is this? Bugs Bunny?
Well, it is Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, then
like
we
the
get to Montoya's telling of the scene.
yeah. So as well with Wilkes, she says that she shows up on time, right, arrived to the bear house, and then to the bear house, the warehouse, and then Bullock is semi-conscious, and she told Wilkes to go pursue the suspects outside, and that's where he sees Batman. Yeah, and then that's where she says like, "Hey, what happened?" And then he says, "More people inside." And she runs inside. She approaches the thugs and overhears someone saying the name Halfcock. So which come up later on, and the thugs see her, and then
One of the guys is coming at her, and like he's got a drill, and
oh
like
yeah,
watching this scene, just like, oh man, I'm glad I didn't see this when I was a kid. Imagine somebody coming at like not with a gun, a power drill, ready to
like a
like
huge one.
shove that into your freaking chest.
And the POV shot of him with the drill, like I immediately thought that he looked like a Dick Tracy villain
Yeah.
with a suit and that fucking old weathered face of his, and then the power drill just like looked like I think. Did you ever see the Dick Tracy movie from like early '90s?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
love that movie.
what's it like Robert or not is it Robert De Niro or Al Pacino's character, whatever
Al
it is,
Pacino, yeah,
it doesn't it look like his character pretty much,
yeah, it
like
kind of
or
does.
pretty
Yeah,
close. So yeah,
I
yeah,
forget
so
his
that's what
character's name.
yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, because I saw that when I was a kid, and then I didn't really like it then. But yeah, it looked like that guy, and too like and once later on when that the character actually says a couple words. Did you catch it? Did you recognize the voice?
Oh, Ron Perlman.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, as soon as he said it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Ron Perlman's voice, and this is actually his first credited voice acting role. Because later on, he goes, we'll probably touch on more when we get to it, but he's famously Clayface, like in the series, and then he's done a lot more like voice work. Because obviously, like with that voice, how could he not like do a bunch of like voice character work? Because that'd be great. So, but
Yeah, do you know that Ron
yeah.
Perlman was almost Smog, like in The Hobbit?
I'd be down for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have complained about that voice. Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, but
Well,
my go to like dragon voice is always Sean Connery though. I am the last
I'm the
one.
last one.
Even though I haven't fucking seen that movie probably since it came out like 30 years ago. But yeah, how can you not? Yeah, I think that's my go to like Connery quote too. I think even over James Bond is I am the last one.
So yeah, then they get back to the present. You get Hackle, the IA guy. He's just hearing all their stories now, and he doesn't know what to believe because the bunch of them are conflicting. If he can't sniff out that Bullock's full of it, then I think that you're kind of failing as a IA agent. But that's just my perspective.
Yeah,
And here's the thing: I get that this is like a police interrogation. He's playing bad cop. But okay, he's also not being professional at all in this. He's just getting real in their face. He's just getting, like hostile with them. to even the point where it's like, even Harvey Bullock would pull back a bit with this kind of interrogation
Yeah,
mode. He's
yeah.
being so smug when he tells them to turn in their badges and guns. Like, this is not a professional environment whatsoever. And even Gordon's just kind of sitting there going like,
Yeah,
what the heck's wrong with you?
yeah. I think he's like barely having his shit too. Yeah, and I think now, of course, we all know from Brooklyn Nine-Nine that like when they say hand in your butt gun and badge, don't actually hand it there. You gotta go like fill out reports and shit. He's like, can't let
Yeah.
me have do anything fun. So they hand in their gun and badges, and then it's suspended for. Did they say for how long, or just or was it indefinitely, or was it really
I'm
said?
gonna go with indefinitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, so they all go off their different ways, and then she goes shows Montoya on the subway going home, and then she's like, "Oh, that sucks," I got disoriented, and she was like, Doc, what does that mean?" And then she has a little notepad, and then actually puts a K on it. And she's like, "Oh, maybe the Doc," and she just happened to look over, and she's like, "Oh yeah, the Doc." Yeah, then so she gets off the next stop and goes down there, and then does a little looking around and sees that was it a half cock and something on one of the buildings, and she remembers that she heard half cock. It's said by one of the thugs before the building fell away. So she runs up to there and sees Batman strung up, and that's
Yeah, he's strung up
it.
like by the arms, like,
Yeah,
just like hanging there. Like, this
yeah.
guy must have his like rotator cuffs killing him at the end of the day.
Well, yeah. That's one of the things why Batman needs to like work all the time. So she's gonna be like in this position at least once every couple weeks, or at least once a month. He's gonna be get caught, or he needs to pretend to get caught so they can find out what's going on, because he's like, nothing else is gonna work, so might as well pretend to get caught. So yeah, she looks in, and then breaks in, and then see them talking to Batman, trying to figure what they're trying to get from Batman. Or they're just
Um,
or they're just holding. Oh yeah, they're just holding him for the boss, because they're trying, like, because one of them was looking in his bat belt and it got sprayed with which was funny. I think he like don't know why, but he got sprayed with like pink paint.
what's that pink stuff was sprayed in the face? I'm just thinking like,
It was
like,
like aerosol, like Pepto Bismol, just in case, like, like Batman has like Alfred made him something new for and he needed to rush away, and his stomach was upset, so he did run to the bathroom, so he's like, need some Pepto just in case.
he's sitting there on the top of a gargoyle and just gets a serious case of IBS. He's
And he's
just
just like,
like,
his
here
stomach
to
starts going.
see,
He's like,
but I
oh shit.
can't crap here either.
Oh yeah, then yeah, so then that's when he says, like, like, maybe we kill him now. He's like, no, it's like, he's worth more to the boss in one piece, sort of thing. Yes. Yeah, then that's where Batman was like, oh yeah, so who's your boss, or where is your boss? And he's like, oh, he's right there. I think that's the words that, like, the three words that he says that I figured out that was wrong. Probably he's like, right over there, or over there, pretty much like two or three words. And he's like, oh, that's all I needed. Of course, Batman's going to have like a little knife or something like in his cuff, cuts himself out, and then takes out all the bad guys. And then Renee Montoya comes in and helps him out, sort of thing. And then yeah, and then all the bad guys are caught. And then DA guy with fuck, I'm blanking on Gordon, Commissioner Gordon, yeah, comes in, and then it shows that Gordon has had enough of what's his face's shit, because he was like, oh yeah, this is you're suspended, this is not supposed to be happening. And he's like, well, they caught the bad guys, got Batman, say Batman, so fuck off. This is a good boss, we're giving it to her.
Yeah.
That's why I like Gordon. He's like, fuck off. He's like, I know it's questionable
He
at best, but
literally manhandles this guy, grabs him by the cuff of his like coat, and throws him away. Like, this IA guy is definitely coming for Gordon's badge after this.
or he's like, oh, or at least hopefully he shows the guy. He's like, okay, maybe not don't go this far.
Yeah, they got their badges back at the end, and Gordon or Bullock's just kind of mumbling, and Montea's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Yeah, uh, like, it's good to be back." And it's like, Bullock, you can at least say thank you, considering this whole episode's conflict is your fault. Montoya's like, "Oh, sorry, what's that? Sorry for nearly getting you fired because I blew up the op, Montoya."
Because I did go in early, but said I didn't.
Freaking Bullock. First of many scenarios where he will screw up.
Yes, yes, yes. So what would you give this episode out of five rookie cops?
I'm gonna give it 4.5 out of 5 rookie cops. I liked a lot of the like new choices and narrative style that they're going with it. I think that it works for the episode, and it's very interesting that it's an episode that barely focuses on Batman. He barely actually speaks in the majority of the episode. He's only got a handful of lines, but it works to flesh out these other characters and kind of give a very intelligent way of like telling this story. So yeah, I really like it. I think it's one of the like most interesting creative choices that they've done for the whole episode or for the whole series.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a definite 4 out of 5. Yeah, because I think it was really well done, and like with this type of story that's told like the multiple points of view sort of thing. Not to touch on the title of the episode, but yeah, where it's like done like where where like the story gets told like two, three multiple times. Like if you ever like a fan of Star Trek, you at least get like two or three of these episodes a season. There's some sort of like spatial anomaly sort of thing. So yeah, if done well, it's a really good episode and a good storytelling and stuff. But it's also really easy to fuck up. Yeah, done. So if it's done poorly, then yeah, it's not really done. But yeah, I think it was done really well, and just yeah, I said it gives a bit more backstory for Bullock and Renee because I said we like it would deal with them a lot throughout the series. So like it yeah, so that's but yeah, I definitely 4 to 5 rookie cops, I think. So any last words for this episode?
Oh, it's really well done, and yeah, it's interesting kind of seeing the first appearance of Ron Perlman. That will be the
Yeah.
first of many throughout the DCAU.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, okay. Yeah, I can't wait for the Clayface episodes. I think they're coming up soonish, or I think or whatever, but we'll see. All right, everybody. That is the episode for this week. Thank you everyone for listening to us yammer for how long it's been. Next week's episode will be The Forgotten. And I've forgotten what that episode is, so it might be interesting to see what that is. Follow us on Twitter/chats at Beyond Batcast, on Instagram at Beyond the Batcast, and you can just follow the podcast itself on all the major podcast streamers or what do you want to call it, distributors, I guess, at Beyond the Batcast. And Braydon, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on Instagram at Alfred is Zaddy. That's Z or Z A D. Sorry, Alfred is Zaddy at Z or Z ADDY. And also, we have a Facebook page for the podcast now.
Oh yeah, so go there, follow us, and write a review on there, or wherever you got the podcast from. And you can follow me at Stump Trunkman on Instagram, and you can follow my other podcast that I do occasionally whenever I decide to do episode, which I probably should do another one soon, and see if my see if they've watched Madame Web yet and see what they think. But I think they're usually pretty good. They usually try and see like good and stuff. So like maybe they'll see if they can see if they actually liked it or not. So I'll have to find out about that. Yeah. So that is the Multiverse of Marvel. You can find that on any major podcast distributors. And yeah. Thanks for joining us in the back half to talk about thing. Thanks
We're
for
both
joining
tongue tied
us.
today.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. Thanks for joining us in the Batcave today to talk about Batman the Animated Series. And goodbye, good chums. Kapow.